Hello, everyone. This is Jim from Conversa. Thanks for joining this webinar today. I'm kind of excited about this. Anders is going to be with you shortly. Talking, I've only had a little bit of chance to get to know Anders, and he's got some extensive experience. And for those of us who are interested in using data to really better know how to deal with the folks we're marketing to, he's got some great insights, especially for some of the mobile capabilities that we can make use of to really look at our shoppers that we're hoping are there for us, how to identify them and follow up on them. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the time over to Anders, but I want to let you know if you have questions, type them in. And at the end of the presentation, we're going to take some time for Q&A, and we'll get a chance to get to all your questions at that point. So without any further ado, Anders, take it over.
Great. Jim, thank you very much for having me, and folks on the webinar, thank you for investing a little bit of time with us today. I love these interactions with Conversa because we, of course, approach the market a little bit differently based on what we do respectively. But I think, as Jim said, we are all kind of united by wanting to get to know customers better, wanting to understand our interactions with them, and wanting to leverage the data that they permission us to use to give them better experiences. That's what it's all about. And so we're thrilled that Conversa asked us to talk about what we're doing, and I'm sure you'll see how all of the Venn diagrams overlap as we proceed here. We're all in the business of leveraging data to drive better customer interactions. So thanks again to you and your team, Jim. All right, so Jim's going to play my Vanna White here. So if we could advance one slide. There we go. Yeah, perfect. Now, so you can skip over me. We can go to about the company. That's the most important thing. So just by way of a little bit of introduction to V12 Data, we are among the top marketing data companies in the U.S. And what that means is we've got an awful lot of breadth and depth to what we do. Think of us as a more nimble Axiom, I guess is what I would say. With all due respect to Axiom, they're big and powerful and a great partner of ours, but we've managed to assemble the breadth and depth of data assets from a third-party standpoint. We come from a background in management of first-party data, and so we really span the spectrum of really being able to help our clients engage with their customers and know them better, very much like Conversa does coming from the other side of it. The thing that really differentiates us, however, is the fact that up in the top bar there, we are the leader in intent data. And that, what does that mean? That has a lot of different meanings to folks depending on where you come from. Really, to us, intent data is about understanding behavior happening in the moment so that our clients can deliver, as I said before, a better customer experience to those with whom they're trying to connect. As you know, there is all sorts of data out there, and really the exciting part of the data landscape today is all around this faster moving real-time behavioral data. And if you can pull that together and make it simple to use, easy to articulate the value of, and so on, you really have something which is intent. You have intent around the next action or an indicator of the next action. And that's what all of us really want at the end of the day. So we do all of this, and you'll see how all of this builds through all of our data assets. You can see some of the blocks on the bottom that kind of talk about how much data we've got. Let's make it simple. We have a lot of it that allows us to know virtually every consumer in the U.S., a lot about them and their household and their preferences and things like that. And on top of that, we can add this fast-moving data that is behavioral and indicates, as I said, the next action. So that's how all of this stuff gets pulled together. But one note, not sure if any of you on the call are in or around the automotive space, but we'll talk about two different use models, the first of which is automotive. We are advantaged by the fact that we're the leader in VIN to person data very similar to Polk, just coming from another point of view, which is the commercial data ecosystem, which I'll talk about. But these general data sets plus the special unique data sets that we've got really put us in a great position, as I said, to understand the person and then understand their behaviors so that we could do a good job for them as marketers. And Jim, if we could move on. Great. So let's dive a little deeper into intent. So all of you are probably shaking your head a little bit, hopefully positively, not negatively, and would agree that the leverage of intent data can lead to better marketing relevance. You know, consumers today are tired in many ways of being sold something. They want an experience or an interaction or a relationship that matters to them. And if they get that, they're willing to purchase. You can tell in all of the studies that we see in client interactions and just in industry research, all of it. If you deliver that experience based on data and based on permission, you really do have something that will both deliver that better experience and relevance to who you're talking to. And then, of course, that's going to give you a competitive edge. Data, the technologies and the processes and the tools that support them is complicated, particularly as you're leveraging fast-moving intent data. Think about it. You've got to understand what's going on in real time. The data is typically quite unstructured. You've got to pull it very quickly into an infrastructure or a set of tools that can associate it with other parts of the data ecosystem so you can understand who you're talking to and what all of this really means. And then you got to get it back out to the marketing channel systems that can deliver the messaging. So competitive edge is not a trivial thing to be able to deliver. Our job as a data company is to try and make all of that complexity really simple, and hopefully we'll show you how we've done that. So Jim, let's advance. Great. So let's talk about where most of intent and fast-moving behavioral data is happening, and that, of course, is the mobile channel. I'm sure this is not a surprise to any of you marketers on the phone today. We all see how mobile is transforming the journey that all of our shoppers and buyers take, and that doesn't matter whether it's B2B or B2C. It's a universal truth that mobile, whether it's phone or tablet or something else, is really not the start of the journey, not the end of the journey, but the journey in many ways. And of course, the omni-channel bouncing back and forth that consumers and businesses do as they're trying to evaluate and make a purchase decision is again, very complex. They're on and they're off multiple screens during the same journey, during the same few moments, for God's sake, and it is up to us to be able to understand what all of that adds up to and serve them the experience and the relevance that they demand. And you can see on the right, the path to purchase is incredibly complex, as you all know. So Jim, let's move on. So how are we at V12 kind of leveraging all of that? So back to the beginning, there's a ton of data out there. The real innovations and the real relevance is happening in faster moving behavioral data that is all about intent, and the mobile channel is the place where consumers and businesses are acting and interacting and reacting as they make purchase decisions. So the mobile channel was really where we decided to apply all of our assets and our thinking. And our take on it is a solution called V12 Signals, which is really relevant to virtually any location-based use model. Primarily B2C, as you'll see in the examples, but I'm sure you'll all be able to kind of take the case learning that we present today and run with it in your own setting. But really, mobile equals location, location equals a lot of relevance in terms of what people are doing and what they care about. And those were the basic thoughts that led to V12 Signals. So Jim, let's advance. So what do we think about location in a little bit more detail? So again, our world is primarily B2C, but I'm sure any of you who are B2B marketers will be able to relate to this. So at the high level, what can we learn from mobile interaction and the data that comes from that about macro trends? Well, of course, if you're leveraging location to derive insight, you can understand population shopping patterns. Who's going where? What are they buying? This tends to be in the aggregate, more of an analytic use case to derive broad scale insights about, are my locations right? Am I plugging into people at the right part of their journey to productively influence their purchase? Where else might they be going in the competitive set? So you can derive a whole bunch of incredibly rich insight if you just look at the macro, at kind of understanding mobile location and people sort of in an anonymized way and what they're doing. So that's incredibly useful. However, if you took the time and used the advances in technology and data to understand what actual people were doing, you begin to get an even greater level of insight. And this left to right arrow should almost be sort of a funnel that narrows, because as you get to know individuals better, you can obviously productively and proactively influence what they're doing based on their location, the kinds of things that they're doing, and the kinds of things that they care about. So certainly share of wallet maximization becomes one of those things that you would really want to care about. Your customers, your loyalists, or even your not so loyalists, if you understood who they were and where they were going and what they were doing at any given time, you could really understand how to leverage their previous behaviors to influence their purchase. So let me give you an example. So if you're a supermarket chain and you understood that there were times of day or types of merchandise that your customer base down to the individual or segment level were interested in, well, you could really begin to serve them marketing messages that were contextually relevant based on what they were doing. Pretty basic. Hard to do, particularly down at the individual level. And this is a thought I want you to kind of hang on to as we advance through here. So of course, there's the share a wallet thing, progressing from understanding what shopping patterns are in the aggregate. So in the red box, you've got defection prevention. So if I know a loyalist and I then observe that loyalist, heaven forbid, shopping somewhere else or doing something else that is indicative of they're about to shop somewhere else or category switching or whatever it is, well, that's pretty meaty. You really want to know of folks that own my brand or frequent my establishment or whatever it is. You really want to understand what they're doing so that, yes, you can maximize their share of wallet, but on a purely defensive basis, you can prevent them from defecting before they make a move. And this is where behavioral and location-based intelligence, really, you can see what you could do or visualize in your own mind what you could do. That's pretty powerful, because all of us as marketers have always maybe seen defection coming, but more often than not, we see defection after it's happened, and we're left to try and understand what happened rather than preventing it before it occurs. So to the right-hand box in green, then of course, there's a more proactive competitive switching behavior that you can begin to undertake. Again, as you get to know individuals as opposed to larger populations in the aggregate, you can really say, all right, if I'm a supermarket chain and I want to look at the 10 stores within a 5-mile radius of the store that I really care about, I can give these guys an offer. If I understand who they are and where they are, I can give them an offer that would incent them to come to my store. And wouldn't that be terrific? Conquesting in another word, particularly as we move to the automotive example. That's a common automotive phrase. So you can really see how location matters a lot. I don't take credit for this line. Somebody in the mobile space uses as their kind of tagline, "Where we go is who we are." And I always thought that was a really great way to understand the power of mobile. And it's really true. If you couple where you go with that person and what they're interested in, man, that's a powerful set of data to really leverage. And Jim, let's move on. So as we looked at mobile and where we could win, kind of a common theme with the last page, it really comes down to people. Any of you who use mobile in your marketing efforts today know that mobile state-of-the-art is really all about the ability to message or talk to a device that happens to be in a location, in proximity to something, or the trip's a geofence, or whatever it is. There are many excellent companies doing things like this, and the common phrases that you hear are things like geofencing or internal to a location, beaconing, things like that. All technologies that leverage proximity and that allow messaging to a device. Typically, that messaging is in the moment, and that's really good. That's a spawned a huge industry and a lot of really relevant companies and ways to market to consumers and businesses. However, the big missing link in all of this is the ability to talk to people. There's a huge difference between talking to that device that happens to be in proximity to something that might be the kind of person that you want to target versus a device that is in a defined location that is definitively the person that you want to talk to. That doesn't require a lot more explanation, but that's the problem we sought out to solve, because as we looked at mobile targeting, all of us as marketers are kind of relegated to this idea of, all right, I guess the best we can do is talk to a device that's close to something. As I said, we didn't see a win for us there. What we tried to do was the harder thing, which is try and go connect that mobile device to the person that holds or owns that mobile device. That's where we thought we could win, and that's where our marketing clients really would be able to win. And after a lot of time and a lot of labor on the part of our team and a lot of patience from our clients, we've been able to do that. And that's the big difference in what we have been able to create. We come from the world of direct marketing. And to us, it just seemed antithetical to what it is that we are, not to talk to a person. And that's what we set out to build, and that's what we were able to do. So Jim, we can advance. So this is an entirely self-serving slide, so you'll forgive me for it. But just to draw the distinction in plainer terms, there are many excellent companies doing proximity-based marketing like geofencing. And each one of the companies that's listed here on the competitive graph has a slightly different take on it. They are all excellent at what they do. If that is what your goal is, then we're happy to put you in touch with the best ones. We, as I said, took a different take. We really wanted to talk to people. And the trick is, in the mobile ecosystem, talking to people with permission is a difficult task. You have to really rethink what it is that you're doing, and how it is you're acquiring data, and how it is that you are acquiring the affirmative permission from consumers to talk to them in this way or to leverage the data in this way. And that's what took the time. That's been the care and construction of this product, because we really had to, as I said, attack it a different way. So V12 Signals is all about being able to talk to people. It is all about being able to message to them specifically based on where they have been. And there are limits to this, which I'll talk about, because we obviously want to minimize the creep factor that all of us think about as marketers and responsible marketers. But when you talk to people, you can also get a much more granular level of sales attribution. So to us, sort of back to our history of being direct marketers and having, of course, transitioned our company or pivoted our company into mobile and digital forms of data, we started with people. We then really wanted to carry out the use model of, okay, if we know who that person is, we know a lot about them, let's empower our clients. Let's enable them to talk to them in very specific terms. And better yet, and this is the most important thing, because you're down to that person level, you can really measure sales impact. That is the thing that makes V12 Signals stand apart from all of our other brethren in this space. Because if you go and look at their excellent case studies, which are all terrific, they have to stop just based on the definition of themselves as companies and products and things like that. They have to stop at saying, well, we drove more clicks, or we drove more views, or things like that. And that's terrific. Believe me, we measure ourselves at that level, at some level also. But if you can really tie this together to sales, now you're doing something. And that's really the distinction that we try to create in this slide and what we set out to do. So Jim, let's move on. Great. The slide sort of got distorted a little bit, but I'll tell you how we built it in automotive. And this is not to just talk about automotive. It's really a window into how we built the product so that all of you can get some understanding of sort of what's possible out there. So the first thing that we had to do was create that person or the phone device to person connection. And that's the thing that really takes a long time. This took the better part of a year. We had to create a supply chain that, as I said before, was based on the affirmative permission granted by consumers who, in our case, are downloading apps or committing affirmatively to a terms of service on a mobile phone, which says, yes, you can market to me using my location. And if I have location services turned on, no problem. That's what I expect. And so that was the thing that we did initially that took so long. And you can see the numbers. It's a pretty good scale. So at the beginning, and these numbers have only grown since, we've been able to associate 200 million mobile devices with their owners. That basically boils down to about 100 million of them. That's not all of America, but it's a lot. It's a really good head start and allows this product to really operate at good scale. So once you've done that, it's then up to the industry specific or vertical specific use case. It's game on. What do we do now? What else do we know about these consumers that we can attach to them that will really make this thing sing? So in our case, we started in automotive because we have a really robust history and product line in automotive. So what we did with these consumers, which we've associated with devices, is we attached what VINs they own or what are in their garage. So what's a VIN? A VIN is a vehicle identification number. It's basically the DNA of your car. So as I said, we've got this leadership position in automotive. We have all that data. That's been the core of our business for a long time. So we've attached consumer to device. Now that we have consumer, we understand what they own and what else is in their garage. That is powerful. What's even more powerful than that, however, is if you then activate the potential of location-based marketing. So the next thing that we did, because we're robust in automotive, as I said, is we geolocated every dealer lot, and this is every new dealer lot plus CarMax in the U.S., 23,900 of them. Once you do that, and you've got permission, and you understand what vehicle that household owns, that person owns, and what else is going on in their household, that is a set of really powerful marketing insights that you can take up to the aggregate level or monetize at the individual level. So at the very bottom, in 2017, after all of that was constructed and we turned the capability on, we got 13 million signals of people that we could identify as owning a VIN at a name and address on dealer lots. And that is sort of the net outcome of what it is that Signals has created. Now, that's only a starting point. Signals in 2018 is going up to the 20 million mark, and what we will have at the end of that is something like 20 to 25% of all dealer traffic in the U.S. So that is a real scaled solution that gives automotive marketers a ton of insight and a ton of opportunity, both to understand at the aggregate level what's going on in my stores, and then also what can I do to give this individual a better experience. So you can see on the right what the output is. Remember what I said at the beginning. You've got this incredibly complex set of things that companies like us have to do to build these solutions, but we want the output, the outcome of it to be really simple. So on the upper right, this signals alert, that's really an indicator of what the outcome of this process is. Our clients get a record, in the parlance of marketers that use data, a name, an address. In this case, they'll get a VIN and the other VINs in their garage, any other demographic attributes that are relevant that our clients want, and how to get a hold of them. Plus, our clients have already decided or selected what locations they want to pull from. So that is an unbelievable set of data that you can really, any of us who have been in relationship marketing or direct marketing for a long time, talk about segment of one marketing, quote unquote. It was a sort of a popular phrase, 10 years ago or something like that. Truly, we are now down to segment of one marketing. We know that this person, this signals alert, Jason Riley, was on a lot during a particular day. Here's what he owns. Here's how to get a hold of him. That should unleash, within the context of campaigns or whatever the marketer is trying to do, but you can get down to the individual level. What does Jason want? And that's really cool. However, down in the lower right, marketers, particularly those who want to monetize all of this insight in the digital domain, keep saying, well, having not everybody is really great. We can go market to them on a very individual basis. That's really cool. But what if we wanted to understand who looks like these people nationally? And so here's what our data science team does is they will create either custom or on a standard syndicated basis, digitally addressable segments, stripped of PII, of course, that allow marketers to address individuals or segments of these consumers that have demonstrated this behavior. So Signals, because it's built like it is, allows this really cool segment of one marketing plus marketing at infinite scale, with the scale that any marketers want. So we like how this thing has come together, and our clients are using this across the full spectrum of individual way up to broader audiences. So Jim, let's move on. So from an analytics standpoint and just a data visualization standpoint, this is my favorite slide of the whole deck because it really does visualize what Signals can do, what you can do when you get down to that individual level. So you see all the blue and the red dots. So blue dots are visits. In this case, we were looking at Toyota data. Blue dots are Toyota dealer visits that we tracked through 2017, and there are 2,400,000 of them. The red dots are Toyota owners that visited a different brand lot. And yeah, there may be a bunch of reasons that person or people visited different brand lots, but if you see enough of them, that might mean that you've got a looming problem that you should get out ahead of. Even at the individual level, you should get out ahead of. So let's look at Angelica down in the lower right. So you see, we know who Angelica is, we know where she lives, we know her gender, we know her age, we know her income, we know a whole bunch of things about her, just given the breadth and depth of asset that we've got. And we know what lot she was on. We don't have it here, but we do. And she owns a 2006 Hummer H2, and she's been on a Toyota lot. So that means that Angelica, more than less, is out shopping for a new car. And we, of course, screen out for service visits during that time of day and so on. There's a lot of stuff that we do to make sure that the data has fidelity and is as best representative of people who are out shopping for a car as we can. It's not perfect, but that's what we try to do. So we track her on a lot. We've got a pretty good assurance that she's out shopping. And because she owns a 2006 Hummer, that car's of the right age where that she really might be looking. So that allows the dealer or the agency or the OEM or whoever it is to market very specifically in context to Angelica. Pretty cool. Conversely, you go up to Richard up in the upper part of the slide, and he's one of those guys that is a Toyota owner and you can see he owns a 2012 Toyota Tacoma. He's been to somebody else's lot, and we can tell, and we just haven't indicated it here. We can tell whose lot it is. So heaven forbid it's like a Hyundai lot or a Honda lot or something like that. That might mean trouble. And so Richard, who has entirely different household characteristics than Angelica, he's 71, there's his income, he owns a 2012 Tacoma. Boy, oh boy, we better get out in front of that, and we can market to him in an entirely different way. Now, one thing I should talk about, which I touched on earlier, just because you know all of this doesn't mean that you have to market with individual context. Like, hey, Richard, I know you were on this lot yesterday. That is something that we do not allow. We do not condone, because that's where, in the data world, there's a saying, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. We do not believe that that is appropriate. It's too contextual. It's too invasive. And it's just out of bounds with what we believe best practices to be. So what we have found is marketers who market to these people simply by marketing to them in a generic way. Hi, Richard, we understand you might be in market for a car. Here are some great offers at your local Toyota dealer, or whatever it is. That's really the level that you should go to, because these folks are clearly doing something. They're clearly in market, and their behavior indicates what it is they're interested in, or the fact that they're kind of down in the funnel, if you will. But too much contextual marketing is sort of in our user agreement, something that we don't allow because it's just inappropriate. And B, marketers just shouldn't do it anyway because it's too invasive, and you'll get the inverse reaction. So what we have found in all of our client settings is that just market with an offer that is indicative of somebody who might be down in the funnel, and you'll get more than your fair share. You'll do really well. But it's incredible the kinds of insight that you can get when you're able to look at things at this level. Okay, Jim, let's move on. So I said at the beginning that the important thing for us is obviously marketing outcome. This is what matters because of how we built the solution, where we come from, all of that stuff. So we look at things at two levels. I said that a lot of marketers look at engagement, and that is a completely inbound thing to look at. We agree that the interaction with marketing communications to an audience is a really good indicator of what it is that they might be willing to do, or at least their interest level. So we're seeing 3x higher engagement than the norm across all of our clients, and this is in automotive. These are specific to automotive numbers, and I'll share some non-automotive numbers in a second. But that's really good. 3x higher clicks, opens, redemptions of offers, things like that. That is where that 3x number comes from. So that's pretty good. Even better is 19% sales conversion. Now, just to be clear, 19% is the total population conversion on all the signals that we see. So of 100 signals, 19 of them buy a car. I'll get into timing in a little bit because there's some pretty cool insight there too. But that is, I think any of us would place a bet on a tactic or a set of data that yielded a 20% sales conversion in the aggregate. If that's the jump ball I can go get as a marketer, I'm going to do that all day long, because that is pretty powerful when you think about all the kinds of loose and inefficient targeting that all of us do, even in digital, where targeting should be finer and finer. Man, to have something that converts at 19% and to be able to go get our fair share of that, that's pretty good. So we're really pleased about those metrics, and not only are we pleased about them, we're super pleased that they have been so consistent over time. Okay, Jim. That slide appears to have built, there, okay, there we go. Let's back up. There we go. All right, so let's move over to retail, and please, I'll be happy to take questions on automotive in the Q&A part of this. Let's talk about retail, and as I said, at the very beginning, really location is an indicator of a lot of purchase behavior or other kinds of behavior. So location-based use cases are a mile wide. There are a ton of them. So in retail, the other big vertical that we operate in, again, we're able to look at both loyalty kinds of behavior, folks who are existing customers of our client and what they're doing and where they're going. In this case, again, you turn the solution on and you can see all about Barbara Holtz there and what she's doing. And you can also see competitive switching behavior. And regardless of what that is, whether it's loyalty behavior or competitive switching acquisition behavior, we're seeing that 3x metric for engagement happen over and over and over again, which is really neat. This case in particular started with, and Jim, I don't know if we skipped over a slide, or why don't you try and advance to the next one and see if this tracks. Okay. So let's talk about this case in particular in more context. So this retailer, which happens to be in the furniture space, let me tell you their journey. The first engagement we had was, all right, we think this is interesting, let's try it. So we turned on 250 stores of their very closest competitors to understand what was going to happen and whether we could encourage any competitive switching. Typically, the entry point for Signals engagements is you turn it on for a few months, you let it run, you improve, you warm the solution up, and you scale it. These guys decided after 3 weeks they had seen enough, and they said, turn it all on. So we did. We stood up over a period of a couple of weeks, 3,500 locations in total. These are both our clients' own and their competitors' locations. And again, turn the solution on in the aggregate, and they are seeing 3x measured engagement even at scale. And again, what's engagement? It's clicks, it's opens, it's redemptions. This is what our client has opted to share with us. We certainly respect that. This is more of a custom sort of engagement that we embarked on versus automotive, where there are industry standard sales conventions and things like that. And we've got cases all across the board where we're seeing engagement and sales, but just indicative of how quickly solutions like this, particularly when you get down to the individual level, can have an impact. So 250 to 3,500 in 3 weeks is pretty good. We're pretty proud of the work that we're doing. And I should say the location footprint for this client continues to grow. They're a small footprint retailer just in terms of the size of their stores, but they tend to compete with big boxes. And so what we've done successively over the last few months is turn on big box competitor after big box competitor. And I think you know who they are. You could guess. And so this is pretty powerful stuff that we're able to allow a small footprint retailer to market against the big guys with some success, just by having that customer insight of who it is that they are, who they're trying to reach, and what the overlaps might be with their competitors. So really, we give our clients a lot of credit for having a lot of imagination and a lot of good strategic thinking that has made this thing as successful as it's been. And Jim, let's carry on here. So another case that is kind of in motion is just another way to think about it. So this happens to be another furniture retailer. This is far from the only space that we operate in, but it's interesting. Of course, the millennial demographic tends to be the folks who are engaging in all of these complex mobile use models that we talked about at the very beginning. They'll go into a store, they'll showroom, they'll check prices, they'll do all kinds of things. They are the kind of penultimate complex mobile path to purchase folks. So this particular chain, who again you would know, very prominent national retailer, is aging. They are aging out of the demographic that they seek. They appeal to the older demographic, and they're running as fast as they can to modernize who they are. So we took a slightly different approach with these guys, but this is the power of having built all of the assets and the resources that we have. And this is a really intelligent way to do it. So as opposed to just trying to plug into third-party prospects that we think are likely to convert or turn all third-party prospects on, this client took the really informed approach by challenging us to look at their first-party data, their customer data, and to help them derive insight and to more finely target the folks that we were going to go after. So we did that. We analyzed their customer base. We found the small segment of millennials that we could really work with and really leverage to create a scaled solution. So knowing that, you're able to do what is a familiar term to all of you, which is lookalike modeling. And so we leveraged our third-party data both to create lookalike modeling and to also increment what this client knew about their customers. I'm sure all of you have customer data that is incomplete at some level, and just being able to do that is pretty powerful in and of itself. But at the end of stages 1 and 2 here, first-party data analysis and third-party contact data, you're able to really understand who among my customer base should I be targeting? Who else in America should I be targeting? How do I reach them? What's the best data set to apply to this thing? So, of course, we then turn on V12 Signals with all of that context, and we target very specifically those people who have come up both in the first-party data analysis around our client, and then in the third-party data analysis around who we ought to be targeting. We're targeting very specifically within context. Do they show up in a store after we've turned signals on? And what do you know? Things are really starting to work. So this is an early case. Don't have tons of either engagement or sales data to share yet, but we thought this was interesting in that not only are our clients trying to encourage competitive switching, they're trying to encourage competitive switching to a very specific demographic that is really important to their future. And I'm sure all of you, whether you're B2B or B2C marketers, can relate to that. Next up is pretty interesting, and I said at the very beginning, we at V12 are really focused on the concept and the reality of intent, really trying to understand all of that fast-moving behavioral data that adds up to something that a consumer is interested in or their next action. Well, the next thing that we are able to do, and there are a whole series of intent solutions at our company, we are plugging in web content consumption analysis. So we're able to understand who is interested in consuming what content online. And of course, if they're in the market for furniture, you know the kind of content they're going to be consuming or the kinds of things they're going to be searching for, or things like that. There are, of course, different rules in this space around PII and the leverage of PII. So it's a set of solutions that get assembled a little bit differently, just depending on what the use case is. But we're able to plug all of this in and successively roll out intent-based products. So web content consumption and what these folks are searching for is next up. And so intent means a lot of things. Mobile location is the most powerful use case. That's obviously the thing that we've evolved most greatly. But boy, if you can start combining location with what that person is interested in, what they're searching for, and what they're doing in their mobile and online behavior, that is pretty powerful as well. So Jim, let's go to the next one. So the retail examples that I quoted are examples of custom programs where a retailer came to us and said, you know, here's our business problem, help us build something that is going to be unique to us. And that's what we did. We're happy to do it. That's what the vast majority of our retail business is. However, as we have begun to identify use cases that we know we can win at, we are also rolling out verticals that make sense for us, that are adjacent to what it is that we're good at. So back to the first case, we're really good at automotive. We've got a lot of data on VINs and the people that own them, and our VIN data is many, many, many data elements deep. We know a lot about every car that's on the road. Of course, that would be appealing to marketers that are selling aftermarket services, whether it be tires or parts or quick lube services or whatever it is. So we have just launched automotive aftermarket and the general kind of post-purchase service use case, and you can see the amount of locations that are in the in V1 of the solution. And so this is very much like automotive. We've geolocated every one of these locations and are monitoring signals that are in those stores so that we have both individual client context and opportunity. We also have huge levels of industry-specific aggregate knowledge of who's winning and who's losing and what the patterns are and what the shopping combinations are and things like that. So custom is really awesome, but when you really are able to dig into an industry, build a solution that's got scale and permanence, you're just able to learn more and more and more. So this is an example of how we are rolling out verticals successively throughout 2018. After automotive aftermarket will come QSR, quick serve restaurants, which as a marketer, I would not have predicted, I must say. I've always been under the impression that, okay, QSR is going to be kind of low ticket value. What kind of LTV can we create there? All of that stuff. And son of a gun, the sales demand from QSR, from our client base, from clients we're getting to know, from our sales team is substantial. So we're going to be rolling out QSRs over the next couple of months. And Jim, let's move on. Terrific. So that's the end of the slideware. I would love to answer any and all questions that any of you might have. So Jim, I'm going to turn it back to you to let me know what those questions are, and I'm happy to take them on.
Great. We have a few right now, and I encourage anyone who does have questions, look for the little box that says questions and put them in there, and we'll get them answered for you. But the first question we have it has to do with Jason, who we saw in a few different slides, wanting to know if we can legally contact Jason if we don't have an opt-in for him.
Yeah, so this is an excellent question. This is sort of fundamental and foundational to the solution. So the affirmative opt-in that we've got, which permissions all of this, is that which Jason has given us as he's downloaded one of the many apps that we pull our data from, and or any of the smartphone companies that also have a terms of service or a user agreement that allow marketers to leverage location-based data. Now, there is so from an ethical and an industry and a legal standpoint, we absolutely have that permission to contact Jason. What we choose not to do and what we don't permission our clients to do, which is at the root of this question, which is great, is market to them with too much context. So again, what we encourage and allow and provide, if that's what our clients need, is an email, let's say, that says, Jason, you might be in market for a car. Let us tell you about all the great offers at our dealership. It's always that, and it's never, hey, Jason, we know you were on XYZ lot yesterday and that you own an ABC car. That will never happen, because while it may be within the letter of the law, we don't believe that marketing of that kind is within the spirit of the law or within sort of the industry guidelines, IAB and DMA, to name a couple, that we kind of operate within.
Okay, good answer. Second question is, can a client of V12 set the parameters for ready to purchase a new VIN, or does V12 set these up and they are not changeable?
No, the great thing, that's an excellent question, very detailed. No, Signals, the way that we have constructed it, it's eminently customizable. So on a few different levels. One is geography. You can turn on or turn off the locations that you care about. So in the case of a retailer might want to look at competitive locations within a 5-mile radius, within a 10-mile radius, within a specific polygon around that store. Any or all of those permutations or individual rooftops is possible. Also then, our client can choose who it is that they want to receive as signals data. So if in the back of the case of the furniture retailer that wanted to talk to millennials, you could turn on or turn off certain market segments that you choose to collect. Obviously, we encourage turn them all on and then wean yourself off of them as you understand what works. We don't encourage operating with too fine of a scalpel at the beginning, but you can. So Signals is kind of eminently customizable based on what our clients need.
Okay, next question. During the retail example, you mentioned turning on signals around competitive locations. Are there any restrictions to the location footprint that a client can request?
Another excellent detailed question. No, and we are always within programs that are running, adding new locations and kind of funky locations that take a little bit of work to sort of figure out. I guess the one thing I would say, so there's no real practical limit to our desire and ability to partner with our clients to do it. Where you get a little bit of imprecision in this is, let's just say, in malls where you've got a lot of stores located, right on top of one another. That takes a little bit of work, so that's not an easy to turn on, no problem, just do it. And then, so you've got horizontal buildings where there's a lot of stuff next to each other, and then you've also got vertical buildings where there's a lot of stuff next to each other. So skyscrapers, for instance, are tough because you've got, again, a lot of things right on top of one another. So that's where we will attempt to isolate, but where just the limitations of the technology sort of make you say, well, that's probably not worth doing, but we're willing to dive in and really try anything. We had a client ask us the other day, could you add these two locations that are not part of national chains around my store? And we said, sure, no problem. Just give us the address and we'll get them located and stood up.
Before I answer this next question, just want to assure everyone who might have gotten on a little bit late, this is being recorded. Once it is posted, you'll receive an email giving you the link so you can go back and review what you want to review. But for this next question, so I get the value of this, but what is the product? Ads on their phones or question mark?
Well, boy, you got people bringing the questions here today, Jim. Very good. So at its most basic level, the product is data. So we're a data company, and our primary product is that feed of data that is Joe Schmo at XYZ address, blah, 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 with all of that household data, contact data, et cetera, associated with Joe Schmo, in the locations that our clients have chosen to monitor. So it's basically a feed of data every day that is the folks that are either loyalists or potential competitive acquisitions or whatever they are. That's at its most basic level. You get data. Now, we have, because this is new, had to leverage some of our in-market execution capabilities, which are primarily around email in our company, to help our clients go to market against these kind of small data sets. So we are evolving from providing just raw data to being a more full solution provider. So if it is the case that our clients want us to provide data, but more importantly, provide solution, bring people to the door, follow them through to conversion, particularly through the email channel, we are able to help our clients do that. But really at its essence, the product is data that our clients can leverage to go to market with.
How timely do you provide the info on shoppers? Can we coordinate any phone, email, mail programs internally from your data sent?
Yeah, so we typically feed, and this is really up to our client, will feed this data set every day. to them. And we will work with our clients up front to sort of think through, okay, if you're getting this many records a day, it will help them integrate with their marketing channel systems and things like that. So there is some work that has to happen in order to market back to these people in anything like real time. Yes, there is plenty of opportunity to coordinate. I mean, we choose to be data experts, and our clients, whether it be, you know, brands directly or their agencies or whoever it is, are really the marketing experts. So yeah, I mean, the coordination is constant and daily. If you choose to turn some of the communication over to us and make it a fuller solution, obviously that's on us. But if it is providing the data to agencies or marketing channel systems within clients or to their data warehouse or whatever it is, there is a lot of coordination that can happen. And as we see results happening, we'll be the first ones to go to our clients and say, you know what, we're liking what we see here. We are not liking what we see here. Let's tweak and evolve a little bit. So we really try to be a partner in reading out performance and helping them optimize all along the way.
Next question, does this identify home IP addresses?
Man, what a smart bunch of viewers of this thing. It does not. We are picking up our data through more GPS-like means as opposed to understanding who's on a home Wi-Fi network or things like that. So IP is not part of the solution, no.
So I think a second part of that question may be, if you're doing location, are you going to know where the people's homes would be?
Yeah, we have to figure that out way back at the beginning. So back to the slide that says 200 million devices married to 100 million people. That's what we did at the very beginning of it. So yes, by definition, that is a lot of how we've constructed the solution. So yeah, it's not just an untethered person who happens to be in a location. Every record that we provide comes with, at minimum, an address that our clients can send direct mail to. And just as an aside, Jim, and we didn't include the slide here, but from a timing standpoint, what we see in automotive, where we've got the most robust kind of industry-wide data, is, you know, we thought that these were going to be real-time purchasers. They're not a lot. They're going to buy that day. That is like incredibly not far, but not close to the truth. What we have seen is the buy cycle takes up to 120 days from the time that we pick the original signal up, and the buy rate accelerates dramatically between days 60 and 120. So I think the good news for all of us as marketers is you don't have to do this immediately. All of us get all angst-ridden about needing to market in real time. And yes, we want to collect the data in real time, but the truth is, at least based on the data that we've got in automotive, and this is beginning to be borne out in certain retail cases, the buy cycle is gives the marketer a chance to build a relationship, to provide that experience, all of that stuff that they are so good at and want to do. So it is not a, convert that person the next day and you're out of business sort of thing. It's actually far from that. It really allows you to create an experience and a relationship that was a pleasant surprise to us in this whole thing.
Next question. What is the pricing structure for Signals?
It varies. So at the highest corporate use level, an analytic license or things like that, where you're not going to go to market with it, it's typically just an annual license where you pay a monthly fee or whatever it is for kind of unrestricted analytic use. There are a bunch of things in the middle, but if you're down at the store level, if you will, it tends to be a per rooftop per month cost to get all of the data that we can provide in that market. And that kind of depends on industry and use model and things like that, but those are the ways that we look at it.
Is this something we are able to be a reseller of?
Potentially happy to talk to any of us, and I think we've got some contact information there, and we'll be happy to engage with any and all of you. You can email info@V12 Data, or you can email me directly. My email is AEKMAN, M as in Mary, AN as in Nancy, @V12data.com with no problem.
This next one is a follow-up to an early one, just seeking clarification, I believe. So each cell number you researched has a physical address tied to it that you were able to identify.
That is correct. That is the gating characteristic of this data. Everything that we provide has a name and address, a person that you can go market to. So yes, absolutely.
Trying to interpret this next question here. I'll read it just like it is, and I'll let you do some interpreting
no problem.
on it. Okay, I think we might have got our words not exactly the way we wanted them. Is this data will help me to get app downloads targeting people from certain age range who go to pharmacies weekly or monthly basis?
Yeah, so pharmacies are a little tricky for us, to be candid, because you're crossing over into the world of medicine. It is not something that we have attacked yet. If there's a specific use case that you have in mind, let's talk. It's just one of those things where we saw a lot of opportunity in non-healthcare related businesses. But we're certainly happy to talk about it, and if there are ways that we can help that are appropriate and don't infringe even in perception on kind of the dynamics of the healthcare industry, we're happy to talk.
Yeah, is that something you've explored, Anders, as far as HIPAA and those types of limitations?
We have not in this product. We are HIPAA certified because of other businesses, or HIPAA compliant because of other businesses that we're in and that we do. But for Signals, we just haven't gone there yet for all the reasons I just talked about. It just gets a little tricky for us.
Yeah, I can see that. So, well, at this point, I don't have more questions. They've been coming in pretty hot and heavy. A lot of great questions. I'm impressed with some of the insights that people are having to ask the kinds of questions they're asking. So I can tell there's some interest, some imaginations on how they can apply this to their efforts for what they're doing for marketing. So this has been very, very informational.
Well, Jim, and we thank you guys at Conversa. We are definitely kindred spirits in trying to develop great experiences based on data for our clients, and just can't thank you enough for the chance to talk to this very well-educated audience. You put me through my paces today. Thank you.
There we go. Yeah, you may not be so excited to be part of this.
I'm going to go take a nap.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I've appreciated the questions. It helped me get a lot more insight out of this, and I can see some things I'm going to want to apply. But once again, Anders, thanks a lot for being part of this. We appreciate it. And everyone, thanks for joining in and participating. We look forward to sharing more with you in the future. And with that, we let everybody go on about your day, go get some good marketing done, and see what you can do. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.